Hello there, metalheads! You're listening to Metal Verbalizer podcast. In this episode, I will verbalize the Finnish heavy metal band Temple Balls. Temple Balls is a band that originated from Finland and started the band sometime during 2009. Although the band started in 2009, they debuted with their first single in September of 2016, and that one was called Hell and Feeling. In Karma Sound Studios, Thailand, the band got to record their first album that was released in Germany and Japan, except Finland then. During the autumn of 2017, they got to go on tour with Battle Beast. After that, they had their first gig in Japan and a mini tour in Ukraine, actually. And just to put it in there, Battle Beast is just a great band. I just love that band as well. It is a little bit interesting when it comes to Japan, actually, when we're talking about it, because for me at least, the last thing I think about when it comes to Japan is metal and rock. But Japan seems to absolutely love heavy metal. So that's a little bit interesting. But yeah, in the spring of 2018, the band also set out on a 2-week-long tour in the Baltic region and Eastern Europe. And later in 2018, in November, the band released a new single called Kill the Voice. And that one was released and received very well, actually. The next single was released in the year after called Distorted Emotions. That was also the same year that the full album was released in March under the name of Untamed. After the release of the album, the band went out on a tour in Europe, but they did not go out on tour by themselves here either, because this time they went out on tour as a support for Sonata Arctica. And also they got to play on a few festivals back in Finland and some international ones as well. But they weren't done touring after Sonata Arctica, because when that tour ended, they actually did set out on another tour, but this time with Shiraz Lane and Blockbuster, which are, as far as I know, Finnish acts as well. But after these tours, they signed a contract with the label Frontier Music, and later in 2021, they released their latest album to date called Pyramid. And when I've read some of the reviews online for this band, it has been great reviews, honestly. And personally, I haven't found a single bad one, which is crazy. It seems like people are hungry for the very classic 80s metal, which is what I would call the genre. And although these guys have put a really modern and their own touch on the genre. And one thing is that I think is really cool with what the band has done and what the band has released is live studio sessions, which are, as far as I understand it, live takes, which means that you set everything up as you would do on stage, but you do it in a studio instead. And then you play the songs through like you would do on stage and record it all the way through in one take. So that is, in my opinion, the most genuine way to record a song. Most of the reason for that is that you get the energy between the musicians recorded as well. And that is something that you don't really get when you record one at a time. It is a special feeling when you play together with your bandmates, honestly. And something cool that they released back in 2017 as a standalone single was a cover. But not just any cover. This one is the cherry on top of all covers, in my opinion. These guys went after the big leagues and cover a whole lot of Rosie by the one and only AC/DC. And for those who don't know me, AC/DC are gods in my home. And so this cover This is a cover that really vibes with me. The singer's extra gritty voice fits really well for the song, and obviously we get a powerful and energetic version of the song with more gain than the original. But let's look a little closer to what the band has released by themselves and their own music. Then we have in 2016, they debuted with a single called Hell I'm Feeling Fine. This is a song that starts off with just the vocals and no instruments. This is something that I think is a little bit interesting and out of the ordinary, since most rock and metal songs starts off with a really heavy guitar part to get you going, if you know what I mean. But yeah, later in 2017, they released a single called Off the Grid, which also was supported by a track, Under My Feet. The track wasn't supported under my feet. The track was actually called Under My Feet. And these were later featured on the band's first full-length album. And their full-length album was released in February of 2017. And this album is packed with heavy songs. And also this time the band decided to make an intro track for the album. And the intro track is a melody played by a piano with some horror-themed ambient sounds in the background. It might sound weird right now when I describe it like this, but I think that it is a cool idea. Having an intro track for your album really gets the listener in the mood for what to come. After the intro, the single Off the Grid will play, and this song is a little bit more laid back in the verse sections, and with a very clear guitar melody. And then the chorus is one that the audience really can shout back to the band and kick everything into overdrive. Freak Flag is the next one in line, and this one is also very groovy with big sounding guitars, and this song is genre-wise really challenging that fine line between hard rock and classic 80s metal. This is something that I think is a bit interesting when it comes to defining genres when it comes to this type of heavy metal, because there are a lot of situations where I've heard people call a band a hard rock band, where I would call it 80s heavy metal. When I think about heavy metal, especially 80s heavy metal, I think of bands like Priest, Van Halen, Kiss, and others like that. In my opinion, heavy metal is a very wide spectrum, and hard rock I would call more like bands like AC/DC, Rolling Stones, ZZ Top, and bands like that. You might argue that that is more blues rock, but I would call it hard rock. Come on. But I guess that since hard rock and heavy metal are such wide genres, there is always something for everybody. But anyways, this was when they released their cover of AC/DC's A Whole Lotta Rosie. And this is just pure awesomeness, like I said before. It is more gain and distortion than the original, and I don't know if it has to do with that they do have more gain and distortion in their version, but it feels a little bit faster and a little bit more intense as well. I think that is just an amazing cover. But later that year, they released a new single called Leap of Faith. Then we had to wait just over a year, so we have come to 2018 now, where they released a single called Kill the Voice. Then in February 2019, they released yet another single called Distorted Emotions. And as you might have guessed, these singles was released to tease an upcoming album. Because not long at all after the release of the last single, they released the album Untamed. This album starts off with a tune called Infinity. This song starts off with some strings and some more quiet drums. Then we can hear in the background some like speech that has to do with the moon landing, and it was like before the moon landing, because you can sort of hear a rocket start off and take off, or I guess lift off. Kill the Voice is the next song in line. Here we have a little bit of a heavier sound and maybe more of a modern sound, with some bits and pieces here and there that are very 80s. And all in all, is just a great tune to rock out to. You also got Leap of Faith and Distorted Emotions, with some more totally awesome tracks that you just have to check out on this album. And well, next release came in 2021 in the shape of two new singles called Thunder from the North and TOTC. Of course, these singles led up to a brand new album called Pyramid. This album starts off with the single Thunder from the North, and this song keeps the intensity really high with some classic 80s riffing together with some lead riffing. And the next song is called Long Ways, Long Lies. This is yet another one where they keep it down a little bit in the verse sections to explode with intensity in the chorus. The chorus is also one that the audiences are absolutely going to want to sing along to. And I just love those songs when you can just jam with a band and sing along to the choruses and that sort of stuff. And it's awesome. But yeah, late 2021, they released the live studio version of like an EP. So it's more like a studio session. And I think I mentioned it before, but that is also a great release in my opinion. There aren't any new tunes in this one, but it is packed with 5 of my favorite ones from the band actually. And now we have reached 2022, where we, as of yet, haven't got that many releases from the band, but we got a single called Strike Like a Cobra. And here we got some shouting backup vocals and some almost chugging guitars. It is just a great tune that makes you wanna party, and I personally hope that we get more music like this very, very soon from the band, because the music has such potential, and just with that 80s style, I really like that. It really vibes with me. But yeah, to tie everything together, we can really say that this band breathes new life in 80s style heavy metal, and with their own modern, intense touch to it. When I find bands like Temple Balls, I can with great confidence say that metal is more alive than ever, and there is just so much great music on its way from several bands. And also, there are some great bands on the rise together with Temple Balls, and I can't wait until I can see these guys on a festival or show. If this band sounds like it is for you, please check out their music and also consider them giving them a follow on their social medias as well. Because, like I often say, that is a great way to help the band to reach out to more people. If you like what we Verbalizers are doing, bringing you some killer new metal to rock out to, make sure to follow us as well on our socials. Over there you can get updates on what band we're going to talk about next. And you can also suggest a band that you want us to talk about. And then we can put it into our schedule, and then we're gonna get it out as fast as possible. And sometimes we also bring you extra episodes where we interview the bands, or the bands come on the podcast and tell fun stories from the roads, which is just total awesomeness. And we have actually recently released an episode where I interview Marcus from Aerodyne, and that was such a fun episode, and you absolutely do not want to miss it. And also, if you like our podcast, make sure, if we deserve it, to give us a 5-star rating. That would mean a lot to us. But that's all for me. You've been listening to Metal Verbalizers Verbalizing Temple Balls.